Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Mr. King, I want to say your question you pose is very good. Whose park is it next? Because I'm concerned about the national lakeshore that we have in Wisconsin, or is it going to be other national parks across our country that are going to be next? But I want to ask a question of Representative Williams. Did I see one of your statements here says without any input from the surrounding communities. Is that correct, that the federal government didn't come in and coordinate with local communities and ask them, is it okay to do this? How can we work out the logistics of making this happen?
There was absolutely no input, no communication whatsoever regarding Floyd Bennett Field to the residents of the Assembly District.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher, do you think that the federal government should coordinate with local communities in situations like this rather than leaving them shut out, as Representative Williams just said?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think when we are able to ensure that community members, local governments, and people can come together to work through solutions, then that is obviously ideal.
So,
I think what
so
we
you
see
believe they
too
should
often-
coordinate, right, Ms. Fisher?
Yes,
That
sir.
they should coordinate. And you said people, referencing people fleeing violence and persecution in your testimony. Should we be allowing people to come into this country? We've had over 10 million that are simply economic migrants. Been to the border numerous times. I've been to Panama, down to the Darien Gap. Should people be allowed in as economic migrants?
I think the data actually shows a little bit of a different story. Over 3/4 of the people that file for asylum eventually are able to stay in the United States due to the fact that they are able to win their asylum cases or find other forms of relief. So this idea, this notion that the people that are arriving here
So, Ms. Fisher,
are coming
the
for
people that
purely
are telling
economic
me-
reasons is not based in fact.
The migrants that I actually talked to down on the border that said, no, we just came here because the border was announced that it was open January 20th of 2021. Do you believe they should be allowed in this country under our asylum laws?
I have been to the border numbers of times.
Yes or no, should they be allowed in if they're simply economic migrants?
Everyone has a human right to seek asylum.
So I'm
it
gonna
is up
take
to the
that
immigration
as
courts
a-
to
I'll
determine
take
whether
that
or
as a
not
yes.
someone has
Is there
a valid
anyone,
claim.
Ms. Fisher, that should not be allowed into our country that wants to come into the United States from a foreign country?
The United States has the ability to enforce its borders. That does not, Amnesty International does not tell any country whether or not they should or should not
So
be
there
able
are
to
some
enforce their
people that should
borders.
be denied entry into our country? Is that what you're saying?
That is the position of the United States to figure that themselves. That cannot come at the expense of the United States' obligations to uphold the human right to seek asylum.
You talked about our obligation under international law. Do you believe international law trumps American law?
No, sir, I do not, and that is why the United States has long established that seeking asylum is a human right under domestic law. In 1980, Congress passed the Refugee
But
Act.
the law,
which-
law also says you have to prove that you're a refugee, correct?
No, sir. The law proves that people have the opportunity to seek asylum regardless of their manner of entry, and they have a process by which they are determined whether or not they have a way to stay.
Which is the process of proving whether,
Precisely.
yes, so it does say that under the law. Is it humane to have Americans' earnings reduced due to illegal immigrants coming to take their jobs? In the last jobs report, half of the jobs that are created here in America in this last jobs report are going to people who are here illegally. Is it humane to have Americans have their pay reduced as a result of the competition that's coming?
There's actually no evidence that shows that immigration has an impact on wages. The United
Actually, there
States-
is, Ms. Fisher. If you go back to the previous administration, the people on the lowest economic strata, their wages were actually going up significantly. I want to get just a couple other questions in. Should taxpayers have to pay for food for the people you're referencing?
What we
Should
know.
taxpayers have to pay for shelter or rent for those people that are coming in?
Those types of programs are significantly less costly than the programs that we have in the moment.
Should
that
they
are
have
very
to pay for
clearly-
attorneys for these people?
The right to counsel in court is a bedrock of our criminal justice system,
So
and
they
I
should.
believe it should
Should
be
they have to
extended
pay
to
for a
those
gym
facing
membership? If a person you're referencing, should they have to pay for a gym membership if someone requests it?
I don't think so, and I'm not aware of any such program.
We may go, the gentleman's time is out of time, we may go second round.
Chairman, thank you very much for
Sorry
the
about
time. I yield back.
Gentlewoman from New Mexico is recognized.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One quick note, we're getting some messages that folks are having trouble hearing, so if you can speak up in the microphones, that would be helpful.